Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing.
Well, we are going to try and find our clogged fuel line for the generator.
So what are we doing?
Okay, what we're going to do, the fuel line that comes to the generator comes from a tank that we believe is back behind the generator. I'm actually not 100% sure, but it's clogged. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and blow the clog out with a tire pressure thing. That should be able to get us about 40 psi, and if 40 psi isn't enough, then we have a big problem, and hopefully we don't blow a line.
If we have to, after that we will end up having to taking apart the nav station, but otherwise, hopefully this should solve our problem.
Well, found valve will go right on the end of a barbed hose nipple. So we're going to put the hose in here and we're going to pressurize it. We have two valves, one right here that prevents fuel from flowing to the generator, and we have one in the back that we just put in that will take fuel from the main tanks. So we're going to shut off the one at the back, we're going to shut off this one, and then we're going to pump directly into the line and see if we hear bubbles coming out of the tank. That's the fuel line that goes to here.
To the tank.
Okay, now we're going to put this onto the... Well, yeah, but we have to tighten it down or the air pressure will just blow it off.
Yeah, okay. You can't really see what's going on there due to the mess of wires. But what we did was we unhooked the fuel line from the generator, and then we hooked up a fresh new fuel line to that same spot so we can then put it on. What we're going to do now is put a hose clamp on it so that the pressure doesn't blow it off.
On a boat, you can never have too many hose clamps. Okay, the moment of truth. I think it blew out. I hear bubbles.
Oh yeah, that's a bubble.
Okay, now we're going to hook her back up. And just to be sure, we're actually going to run the fuel through the main ray core before we try and pull it back into the engine again.
This is what we did yesterday for a good portion of our day before we got it to work, is we ran the motor to fill the fuel line. And in order to do that, it has to go through the entire engine feed system before it goes to the fuel line to the generator. So we started up the generator in order to get the fuel running, and predictably it ran for about a minute till it ran out of fuel and the air block hit it.
Correct, till it ran out of fuel and the air block hit.
So now we are just running the pump.
If I press this switch down, it runs the pump and the heaters.
And for the test, let's put it under load.
So guys, you might actually want to have one of these on your boat. It's just a little tiny compressor like you can pump up a car tire with. That's all it is. You can use a barbed hose fitting and it fits just perfectly inside. Another good tool to have with you, 12-volt compressor. I borrowed this from a friend. We didn't have one. I'm going to go buy one. So, if you don't already know, we are trying to actively get back to the States, but everything seems to be getting in the way. And this is frequently the case when you try and leave a harbor. So Hannah and I just recently got sick. Sam got sick. We're still trying to get over that, but I'm not going to sea while we're sick. Then we had problems with the generator, and it was just one thing after another. Because when a boat sits for a year, you think it's ready to go, but it's not ready to go. It's always a bigger job to get out of a harbor than you think it is. A little bit about the fuel. a very common problem. And it's happened to several boats just right out here in the harbor that have tried to leave recently. They get out of the mouth of the harbor, the waves start going, and their engine quits. And then they're stuck outside the harbor, close to land, near the rocks, and their engine doesn't work. The reason it quits is because the waves stir up all the crap that's on the bottom of the tanks, and then it clogs the fuel system. This is a really common problem. So it's always a good idea to polish your fuel before this happens. And all that means is running it through the filters with a little electric pump until you get it all out. Stirring up your tanks, if you can do that. Having extra Raycor filters so that if you do actually clog the filters, it doesn't clog the engine. Well, in our case, we had a clog in the generator. Now, we've been running the generator a lot, so we've got fresh fuel in there all the time. We shouldn't have a whole lot of sediment on the bottom of the tank, but probably we have some mold that grows in diesel, and it got clogged in the end of the tube. Thankfully, as you'll see in the video, this turned to be a fairly easy problem to fix. But it also allowed us an opportunity to repair something on the boat that had been done wrong for a very long time. The original design of the boat was with a forward starboard tank and two aft tanks, port and starboard. And they were all run together by a manifold with a couple of knobs so that you could choose which tanks turned on and off when. Keep all your tanks separate. But it also meant that you could use the aft tank on the starboard side to run the generator, or you could run the generator tank to run the engine. Right? They were all three tanks. In our case, somebody had disconnected one of those lines a long time ago so that the generator ran on the generator and the engine ran on the engine tanks, and the two didn't mix. Well, we took the opportunity to fix that. So we put this switch back in, so we now have a little Y. The fuel comes up from the aft tanks and it goes either to the engine or the generator. So now we can turn the knobs off, and if our generator tank does clog again, we can run it off the fuel tanks. Or if the fuel tanks clog, we can run the engine off the generator tanks. And we were very glad to be able to get that back together again. So, what's our current plan? I don't know. We're going to get out of here when we get out of here, but it's hopefully going to be before hurricane season. I really don't want to take the channel during hurricane season. So, that's our goal, is to leave Luperon soon and head back to the States and do a little bit more work on the boat. Hey folks. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. It really does help, and it helps the channel grow. It helps us get higher in the search engines, and if you do feel like you can, please donate and help us out on the journey and help us restore this boat. We have a Patreon link. We also have a PayPal link on our website.
GoPro, stop recording.